Hey everybody, welcome to our brand new show, News from Heaven, where we're going to take an annotated journey through Swedenborg's writings. Who wouldn't want to do that? So if you want to support us in this new show, don't forget, we need you along on the journey. The first step, man, like and subscribe. I know we tell you to do it, but this is really what gets the fuel for the fire, for the engine that pushes this effort forward. And hopefully what we're trying to do here is find ways in Swedenborg's text to make life better for us, and then that would get us in a position where we can go make life better for the world. So we're trying to ripple out something good. So thank you for being willing to be a part of the push. Today, we're going to be going in and taking a look at innocence, wisdom, and perhaps some kind of relationship between the two. And we're just going to casually take a peek inside an angel's mind. But I want to say, as we start this show, that while that's cool stuff to read about, it almost doesn't matter what we're reading about. And this is part of why Swedenborg's writings have been such an amazing tool in my life. Because when you get material that's structured like Swedenborg's, it's really more about the universal experience of getting in there. Because if you think, where are we normally? We're here. I mean, this is, if you're anything like me, we're going about our day and we're thinking, and this is worry, fear, anxiety, events that are coming up, things in the past, things that are trying to haunt you and get you to live a less than happy life, whatever it is. And it can be very hard to break out of that weather. But when we engage with material like the writings of Swedenborg, what that is doing is allowing us to perceive that there's something outside the fray, that there is something beautiful and powerful and real and saving outside here. So what we're trying to do is, by picking up these little factoids through the text, just get little rays to come in here, and then that's the only antidote to this weather system that we're in. So wherever we go, hopefully we get that experience. And I want to know, I just gave some generic examples, but what's your weather system? You know, what's getting you down? What are we trying to dispel? Because we're really all on the same team. We know what it's like to need help, and how can we be help to each other. So what's going on for you? Leave me a comment so we can take a look after this show. What's your weather system, and what are we going to try to break through? And I want to know at the end of the show, did anything we say today give you any help with what's going on? So let me know how the progress goes. Today we're going to be looking at Swedenborg's book, Heaven and Hell, his most popular book. And you can download that, check the link in the description, follow along with me, or we're going to be doing it right here on screen. If you get that PDF, scroll all the way down to number 278. And this is where we get into the innocence of wisdom. So, beginning right here, Swedenborg says, "The innocence of wisdom is real innocence because it is internal, being a property of the mind itself, and therefore of our volition itself and our consequent understanding." So right there, you've got the innocence of wisdom, which it sort of seems to me like, isn't that a kind of an oxymoron? Looks like an oxymoron tried to write oxymoron there, because aren't those two words the opposite? Innocence is I don't know a lot. Wisdom is I do know a lot. How are you going to put these two together? But Swedenborg is saying this, whatever this is real innocence. Which right now it might seem like, who cares if something's innocence or not? But we're going to show you how innocence is this amazing pathway to all the stuff we're looking in life. Happiness, when you get to the way that Swedenborg defines it. Real innocence, because it's internal, being a property of the mind itself, and therefore of our volition itself and our consequent understanding. You're going to find wherever you go, Swedenborg is going to talk about us. Believe it or not, that's supposed to be a human being. And you have not just one component of your mind, obviously lots of little parts, but basic components. There's really your understanding or your will and volition. There's these two parts, and somehow innocence interacts with both. When there is innocence in these, then there is wisdom as well. So we're starting to set up our terms here. If we can get innocence into this stuff in our mind, then we start to get wisdom, because wisdom is a property of volition and understanding. So it all interfaces there. Somehow they're linked. We want that because, spoiler alert, this is part of the angelic mindset. That is why they say in heaven, we got a little phrase here. This is why they say in heaven that innocence dwells in wisdom, and why angels have as much wisdom as they do innocence. So I just want to let you know there's a subtle shift in here that has us describing the angelic mindset. And that is the mindset that I'm trying to get to. Because if you look at where we were before, right? We've got these clouds and we've got this stuff messing with us. The way out, as far as I can tell, is this mindset, is this path. And you might say, well, I can't go be an angel and do that. The fascinating thing that Swedenborg describes is you think of an angel as like, oh, an angel is almost like a superhero or some kind of mythological creature, and they're like shining out rays of light, and they always take out the trash when it's time. They got everything going on. And then you have us measly little people way back over here, living our life, unable to break the confines of gravity. What Swedenborg says is that this is a continuum, that we can get to angels, to being angels, but also get to being angels by steps that are easy to understand, if maybe not to put into action, that there are tangible shifts in thought that can get us from being a person to being an angel. And we're going to be exploring those here. And this is something that we can be doing right now. This is not something that has to happen after death. So I'm trying to get all of us here. Let's see how we do with that. So back to the text. They support the truth of this by observing that people in a state of innocence... Sorry, I got to just put a giant red circle here. This quote is... It might sound like hyperbole to say it's one of my favorite Swedenborg quotes, but it's hard to argue with how amazing this upcoming list is, because what I want when I am sitting here in my mind and unable to break out, when I've tried everything, when I think, what I'll do, I'll just think from this black cloud, okay, well, this is a sense of insecurity and a worry about, well, if I just get myself to do what I'm supposed to do and do better, then I can break out. But these clouds are all just self-recycling this same negative stuff. So it's absolutely impossible for us to break out of here with the material there. What we need is this angelic mindset coming in. And what I want non-intuitive instructions, like stuff I haven't already tried, but that's basic and that I can understand. And I just think we might be hitting this here. And every time I read this quote, I'm just like, oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, right. So that's what we're looking at when we get into this here, because we're about to be hit really hard and really fast by the mind of an angel. This is that part. This is how angels are doing it. They support the truth of this. I've maybe hyped this up too much. That's fine. I'm happy to have done it. That people in a state of innocence, here's number one, do not take credit for anything good. That's a very weird lead. You would think people in a state of innocence do not know how to get to the airport. Or what does not taking credit for anything good have to do with innocence? And what does not taking credit for anything good have to do with anything? Isn't it, we should feel good about the stuff we're doing, and that will make us feel better. But I'm telling you, this is the way out of the maze, or it has been for me. And so how do you not take credit for anything good? This next clause is enlightening. But ascribe and attribute everything to the Lord. I'll give that a blue. So the first switch in the angelic mindset is, rather than when you do something good, or when you accomplish something good, or when something good is done, we say, oh, that's cool, but I'm not getting all puffed up about it because God did it. Why is that potent? Well, because when you're in this mess with all these clouds, they are, even if you feel like, oh, they're saying I'm no good, they are thriving off a matrix in which people have value determined by how well they do in life or at a particular thing. And as long as you believe that, yeah, we're all kind of racking up a score of how many good points, okay, I just finally got another one. And I don't just mean morally good, I mean talented, I mean successful, whatever it is that pushes your buttons in particular, these clouds are saying, yeah, this is the way the world is laid out. But to suddenly say, we're starting to get a little bit crowded here, to suddenly say from this, no, I'm not worried about goodness points, because they're irrelevant. There is no goodness points. Goodness is the joy of God coming in and we collaborate on something, and I'm not looking for the credit of that. As soon as you got that rolling around in the mind, everything that was trying to come in before has a lot harder time sticking because it's a foreign environment. Kind of their pass in the door is no longer valid. So that's the first one. That's just one. And to me, you could take that and apply it ad infinitum to life situations. I find that that's like a crowbar to get this junk off me. But let's see what the next one is. They want to be led by him and not by themselves. They want to be led by him and not by themselves. They love everything that is good and delight in everything is true, because they know and perceive that loving what is good, that is... All right, let me get my scroller going on. Loving what is good, that is, intending and doing good, is loving the Lord. And loving what is true is loving their neighbor. So you have... I don't want to be leading myself. I don't need to go back to my cloud diagram, do I, to convince you that most of the thoughts and stuff that's negative in life is harping on, you screwed this up, or you should have done this better, or you could have done this differently. But to say that the goal in life is not, man, I'm going to make the perfect decisions all the time, and I'm going to do the perfect things, and I'm going to ace everything, and when my cursor is giving me this other thing, I'm going to be able to fix it right away, that's not it. That the goal is getting in this partnership where God is leading us. Suddenly, critiques of our leadership, of our captaining of our own life, don't have that same potency. So I find this is like another high-end bit of life content. This is how an angel thinks of something, and the more we think like an angel, the less those negative stuff has anything to talk with us about. They live content with what they have, whether it is little or much. Remember, this is the wise innocence, or the angelic mindset. And so you hear that before, but here's a fascinating reason why. Because they know they receive as much as is useful. Little if little is good for them, and much if it is good for them. So not just be happy with what you got, but that when you feel like you don't have enough, whether that's resources or affection or whatever is going on, it often, the pain of it, beyond just the inconveniences it causes, is that you feel like you slipped through the cracks somewhere. And what this is saying is, no, God is there. God is not just, it's not just the people who are rich and cool that God is paying attention to, but where we are, not that it's not a pain, and not that it wouldn't be nice if we could be happy, or not just happy, but free from all kinds of difficult circumstances all the time. But there's an intent there. Little if little is good for them, and much if it is good for them. And also, what do you mean much if it is good for them? Of course, I want more money, and I want more, I want to be doing a better job at everything. I want everybody to like me more. I want more success. I want more leisure time, whatever it is. It's because you're thinking, okay, God is thinking about spiritual development, and that God is present. And this, when I remind myself of that, when I'm faced with the negative thoughts coming in, and I remind them, because negative thoughts, they're going to want to say, hey, this is not, you're not happy because you don't have enough. This is really bad for you. And I can remind them, no, it doesn't matter. God is distributing as needs to be distributed. And one of my hard and fast goals isn't to have exactly what I want. It's to get into this heavenly mindset. Try it. Try doing that. If I just heard it for the first time, I would think there's not much to that. When I try it with my thoughts and feelings, this is why I like Swedenborg in the first place, because it provides leverage that nothing else has provided. So just try these out, man. And as if those weren't enough, he continues. And this is one of my favorite lines, man. They do not know what is best for themselves. Only the Lord knows. And in his sight, everything he supplies is eternal. They do not know what is best for themselves. Suddenly, I am off the hook for things not turning out how I wanted. Because your regrets and fears and worries and shames can sit there and say, this happened, or this isn't going to happen, and doesn't that make you miserable? Aren't you worried about that? Aren't you ashamed about that? Aren't you fearful about that this thing you want to go this way is not going that way? But this is saying, I don't know what I need. Just that little phrase, I don't know what I need. God knows what I need. I find that is Teflon to these thoughts and feelings. They just can't get through that, because it all hinges on you accepting the burden of where life goes. But this innocence of wisdom, this angelic mindset, is knowing that's not actually how things are laid out. Everything he supplies is eternal. That no matter what circumstances are, this is somehow going to end up for the best. So they have no anxiety about the future, but refer to anxiety about the future as care for the morrow, which we once did a little video called Spiritual Toolkit that was all about that, which they say to care for the morrow, any kind of worry about how things are going to go. It's hard to give up, but when you start to try, they say, they being the angels, is pain at losing or not getting things that are not needed for their life's useful activities. So if something, I wanted this, but actually, I guess I don't need this for what I'm going to go do. Frees up my day, frees up my mind. And this is an interesting little add-on here. They never collaborate with friends from an evil intent, but only from good, fair, and honest intent, right? Which is getting more into sort of basic morality. To act from evil intent, they say, is guile, which they avoid like the poison of a snake because it is diametrically opposed to innocence. So if we are saying this innocence mindset, if we actually believed and internalized everything here and that was on the last page, that's not such a bad way to live. So I want to get there. I find myself anyway, I don't know if I'm selling it to all of you, I want to get there. But it's not always easy. I can make a little bit of progress, but then I slip back into my same worries and I am like, well, how could these principles really be true when this other stuff seems so immediate and so relevant and so specific? It's good to know, okay, what shifts the balance in the direction of innocence can't thrive in this environment, and it is to act from this covert evil intent. And evil sounds super dramatic, and you might think, well, I never do anything like evil, but even anything that you wouldn't want done to yourself. Just the way that I'm talking about people, the way that I'm thinking about people, or the way that I'm scheming things. The less that I do that, not that you don't ever have to make challenging maneuvers in life, but the less that I'm really doing from a self-centered, don't care about what I inflict on others intent, the more I open up an environment in which innocence can thrive in the mind. We go on. Let me give you a little cursor here. Since their greatest love is to be led by the Lord, and since they ascribe everything to Him, which those are the things we already laid out, they are kept away from their self-centeredness. And to the extent that they are kept away from their self-centeredness, the Lord flows in. Because the greatest block to this mindset, again, a class in drawing profiles, if we're talking about self-centeredness being this barrier here, and innocence is trying to get in, as long as we follow these tangible steps, like be willing to have God lead the life. And that can be as simple as just saying, okay, well, it's fine. To your own thoughts and feelings, God is sort of managing the situation. God is project manager for this part of my life. And ascribing everything to Him. So the 1-2 punch of saying, yeah, God is project manager and, wow, He did something cool here with what did turn out well. Then the self-centeredness disintegrates. And that allows, bam, we got this innocence that can flow in. This is why they do not store in their memory what they hear from Him, hear from God, because Swedenborg is saying the Word or the Bible as he's mentioning it. Where there's a lot more to say there about the specific nature of that sacred text. Or whether you hear it there from your spiritual tradition or through preaching, but immediately heed it. That is, intend it and do it. So something about just like, now I'm not going to think about whether, which is really hard when you hear a new principle to make a habit out of it. But he's saying this is part of where we're trying to get to. Their intention itself is their memory. They appear, and so what's it look like if you get into this state, right? So this is the appearance. They appear extraordinarily simple in outward form, but they are wise and provident inwardly. So you've probably met somebody a little bit like that, who seems to be sort of goofing around, but when they need to get something done, they do it. Or you see the way that they lead their life. There's a playfulness to them, but it doesn't mean they don't know what's going on. They are the ones the Lord was referring to when He said, be wise as serpents and simple as doves in the book of Matthew. This is the nature of innocence, called the innocence of wisdom. So that's where we're trying to get to, innocence of wisdom. And the reason we're trying to get there is because it's going to help us break free. One final paragraph. Since innocence does not take credit for anything good, but ascribes it all to the Lord, as we said, since innocence loves to be led by the Lord, giving rise to that acceptance of everything good and true that leads to wisdom, we have been created so as to be an outward innocence when we are little, meaning when we're actually a baby and what we would generally call innocent, but in an inward innocence in old age. to come to the latter through the former. So come from youth to the innocence of old age. So when we do get old, our bodies deteriorate and we become like little children again. Hey, Grandma. Just kidding. But like wise little children or angels. For in the highest sense, a wise infant is an angel. Oh, I'm just going to drop that in at the end, the last paragraph that Curtis is just trying to rush through to get to the end of the episode. But there, couldn't you study that forever? I mean, if you know that a wise innocent, a wise infant is an angel, can't you think about the way a little baby is? Now, this is a baby, you can tell because it's got a diaper on. You would just look at the way infants approach life, the way they think about things, the way they interact. Couldn't you study that and think, okay, what can you take of that to implement into our day-to-day life? And don't we already try, because we talk about inner child, you know, and being spontaneous. Isn't that sort of a goal? So somehow we got to be a wise infant. We'll get that cursor up there. This is why infant in the word means one who is innocent. An elderly one means a wise person full of innocence. Hopefully what we do here in going through that, and it's a lot, but now it's sloshing around in our mind. Hopefully what we've done here is we've introduced some light. That those ideas are around, and if you are like me, what'll happen is I'll read something awesome like this, and it's up there. Somehow it's entered my consciousness field, and just as I'm going, when one of these little clouds starts to try to hit me with some kind of, I'll just notice something swoops in here at the speed of light, and I remember a phrase or thought or concept or an idea. And that is, rather than my own turning of my gears and wheels, that is what alleviates that. And then suddenly, where I was going to go into this familiar depressive loop, instead, whew, I'm back up and I'm thinking in a higher state. So, did it work at all? Is any of this stuff resonating with you? I would love to hear just in the comments right now, did anything as we went through this, did your mindset change at all from how it was in the beginning to where it is now? Did you feel any kind of lift just from thinking about life like life is talked about in Swedenborg's writings and the concepts we're getting at? And then also, do you feel like you discovered anything? Because you may have insights into this text as we went through that I didn't have. So I'd love to know, did you find anything that you felt like could be helpful in your life? Let me know in the comments, because we're going through this journey together, like I said, and I want to steal your best ideas from you. I want to know, how do you read it? How does it affect you? What does it do for you? So that's the mission. Please write some comments, and hopefully we can get all of us sort of out of the bad weather into the good weather and able to go and bring that shiny yellow highlighter to other people.